Berlin, Germany, and the LEC Spring Playoffs. Yesterday, Fnatic made it into the next round, and tonight, Splyce or SK Gaming will join them and challenge them for a spot. In Rotterdam, we saw Splyce arriving. We saw SK Gaming preparing in their ready rooms. My name is Sjokz supporter. We're also in our ready room. It's just the analyst set, and I'm here with Martin Deficio and Indiana Froskurinn. Black, welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Long time no see, Martin.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what, Worlds?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's true, actually.
Oh, yeah, since you've been together on a
yes, and we're going to talk about LPL today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me. I was like super excited to come to Europe, and they're like, I get to work with Deficio, and then I landed, they're like, by the way.
It's Vedius instead.
It's true, actually.
No,
That's
yeah.
actually really sad.
I think we've come to terms with it pretty well. I'm very happy to be covering the series today with you guys. And of course, yesterday, it wasn't the longest day because the back-to-back champions Fnatic, they continued their solid form, sweeping Vitality 3-0 in our first best-of-5 of the LEC.
Yeah, the reality is that it was just a complete stomp. Vitality, frankly, just did not show up to play, and Fnatic cleaned house on them.
I'm kind of happy that both teams played the exact same style they played at the end of regular season. Obviously, a little bit sad for Vitality.
You can prepare for them.
Well, it makes it a bit
Fnatic.
easier to prepare for it, but like I think with Vitality, as Frost just highlighted there, like they didn't really show up. We started seeing even mechanical mistakes that I don't think we've seen too often before, like the one on your screen here where Kabashak gets baited, and then Jack Troll for some reason decides not to follow his jungler, and he also
They were completely out of sync.
What I do think was interesting, though, is the fact that Fnatic didn't have to show anything. You know, a lot of people had Fnatic as heavy favorites coming into this playoffs, but the concern is that that's still 4 best-of-5s to go to until you maybe take that spot at MSI. But when it's easy 3-0s like this, when you don't have to reach very far, when you don't have to reveal any picks, they didn't have to use any gas in
MSI,
tank.
we're looking at the trophy here, Frost.
True.
First the trophy.
Oh, yeah,
it's harder
first the
to get
trophy,
than
then
MSI
That's like
anywhere.
your extra, your gift, you know, after that.
It is true.
Yeah, but for Vitality, looking forward, yes, we saw some tweets yesterday from the members. We weren't happy. This wasn't what we came here to do. Eyes on summer now. For Fnatic, though, they are now on an 11-game winning streak. They completely turned it around in the middle of the split, and I think, as you guys said, Fnatic, they didn't have to show too much. Every single player was playing well. They played well as a cohesive unit. They also didn't have to give too much away. I think they're very happy campers.
I mean, they're super happy, of course. Great, again, coming in as big favorites and get a 3-0. They picked Vitality before they even saw the other game end, so you back that one up too by destroying them so hard. Some teams also say it is a benefit to actually play more best-of-5s in a row, so start in the quarterfinal, because you get into that flow very, very quickly. And when you start like this, and even with Nemesis, in the end also getting to show up, I think it's perfect.
Yes, it was on Kayle. There was a bit of contention about, well, how hard is it to get a pentakill with Kayle? Really? Well, you can't do it, and he can't.
But
so there we go.
He understood how powerful the champion was, because the funny thing is 2 of his members leave him, and he keeps stepping forward. He's like, nah, we in this right now, and I'm going to style on them to do so.
And all the hard work has already been done right now because his team is so far ahead. He has like 3-4 items at this point, and he is in a late game state as Kayle. So yeah, if you get a fight where you can literally just stand there and smack people left and right, you will kill them.
So then tell me, of course this was the first time we saw Kayle in the LEC, and here it was a bit of a steamroll game no matter what, but what do you think of the real power she has in competitive play?
So we have seen Kayle played in both the LPL and the LCK, and there's kind of 2 different build paths right now that's going. There's the LCK, which you're looking for kind of that Trinity Force into Infinity Edge into Phantom Dancer. And the reason why you go for the crit attack speed is because on the splash damage, you're basically doing crit on your true damage. It's just disgusting. But the issue is that's one of the most expensive builds in the game, Trinity Force and Infinity Edge. And yeah, the LCK can play that slow, that Kayle is actually getting to that point, but Nemesis played much faster, looking for the Rage Blade and the Bork.
Yeah, it's a little bit smoother build path in the early game. Also Klepto, of course, being picked to gain more gold, because you really are useless in the early game. Like, as a champion, you don't really bring anything to the table when we watch the first part of the game, but once you complete 2 items, you are one of the scariest picks already, and you get stronger. That's kind of the crazy part. You just keep getting better and better and better, hit level 16, you know, get 3-4 items under your belt, and you are probably the best late game champion then, in a team fight at least.
I think kind of some of the cool things about this rune choice in particular for Nemesis is that, as Deficio was talking about, Kayle very weak in the lane phase. He spec'd for that, not only with the Kleptomancy to get the extra gold, but if you do get that elixir of skill, you can actually cheat your passive and get it earlier on. Then likewise, taking the bone plating, so to help with those trades, and he maxed Q, so if he did need to farm from afar, he was able to do so with the Q skill shot.
Yeah, so he found the perfect scenario to play Kayle in that game. And
also against a tilted team. So it was like, hey, everyone is dying left and right.
So Kale or no Kale, tilted team or no tilted team, Fnatic did get the job done. So before we dive into tonight's action, let's see what lies ahead and what's to come here in the LEC Spring Playoffs.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the LEC. Now we've made a few changes to our format, and it's pretty straightforward. So without further ado, let's take a look. During the regular season, our 10 teams will compete against each other in a double round robin best-of-1 format over 9 weeks. Now it's time for the playoffs. Each match will be played in a best-of-5. To start off, in round 1, teams ranked 3 to 6 will face off, but with a catch. Team number 3 will have a choice of playing team number 5 or team number 6. For this video's sake, let's say they choose team number 5, which means that team number 4 will play against team number 6. In round 2, not only do we get the winners from the previous week fighting it out, but also get to see 2 juggernauts in team number 1 taking on team number 2. Now it's on to round 3, with the winner of the juggernauts moving directly into the finals. On Saturday, April 13th, the loser of match 4 will play the winner of match 3. And on Sunday, we've got the cream of the crop playing against one another for a winner-take-all. We hope you like the new playoffs format. Thanks for watching.
We do love the new format. Thank you, Dracos. But if we now translate that into the results we've already seen, of course, Fnatic picked Vitality, beat them, moves on to round 2, and will then play the winner of SK or Splyce in a best-of-5. And whoever wins that goes up into the semifinal against the loser of G2 or OG. The winner of G2 OG goes straight to the final and only needs to win 2 best-of-5s, which is similar to when we had the other system. However, when you now lose this first game in round 2 as G2 or OG, you do get a second chance to make it to the final.
Big positive, of course, in case you end up losing.
Especially for you.
Thank you. I think one other thing that's added to this format that we're not talking a lot about is the fact that between the semifinals, so the game on the Saturday, you actually only have 24 hours to get ready for that grand final. Of course, the team who's sitting in the grand final, they've had the entire week, but they don't know who they're playing. They have to prepare actually for 2 teams at the same time, and then say, okay, it's going to be this one. Then we select, we end up playing against, and then you know what you want to do.
Yeah, a lot is going to come down to the teams that are best prepared, that have the best coaching staff as well, is very important, and how they can do in that short turnaround time. But what is certain is that the top 3 teams will be fighting for the first LEC trophy ever in Rotterdam on the 13th and 14th of April. Tons is on the line both days, of course, semi-final Saturday, grand final on Sunday. So get your tickets now at eu.lolesports.com/Rotterdam. And as we're on the topic of Rotterdam, of course, that match of G2 versus OG is super, super hype and highly anticipated. It's probably the most exciting one in all of the rounds, I think, because we've been building up to it so hard. And it's between these guys in the mid lane. So, Deficio, first, the biased point of view. How is it going to go?
I think it's going to be a great match. I think we're not scared of G2. I said this yesterday as well. You have to respect them, of course. You have to respect what they can do, no matter which support they're using. But I think if you go in scared, if you feel like, okay, there's no way to win this, it's obviously a horrible mindset to have. I think also we have a small edge here. Nuke can actually hit the logo with his finger. Caps is a little bit above it. So mental edge for us. I think small advantage OG.
This guy is PR trained. Do you have some broadcast training? That was very smooth.
I mean, he's making it easy. I don't even know what he's doing up there.
Yeah, Frosk, so non-biased opinion on the match.
Caps, G2, Super Team, Kings, Dynasty. The one thing that I will say, because I think it's super easy to just hype up G2. You throw a rock, you hit any of their players, you hit a superstar. There's a reason why they are so terrifying and teams need to respect them. The nice thing that I like for Origin is that they have the second best mid laner in Nuke. And you can't say the same if it's, Fnatic or Splyce. Humanoid or even SK, that's Pyrian, Humanoid, and Nemesis. They don't have the same hype factor as this matchup does.
I also think both times we played them so far, they split. If we look at this player for player, lane for lane, it's not just mid lane that can go even. Actually, top lane was the same, and bot lane as well. I think generally our players individually can match the G2 guys, so they don't have that advantage, which they have shown to have over a lot of other teams in Europe.
Yeah, and you have that win under your belt, of course, when G2 was still in their top form. We'll see next week. We're going to move on now, though, and today, for the very first time in Ready Check, I've got the great pleasure of introducing a game that is the creme de la creme in the world of cringe. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Champion Charades. Yay!
Yes.
Yes! So how it's going to work is production will tell each of us a champion name, and that person then needs to imitate the champion and the other 2 guess. And I'll go first. Okay.
So you're gonna act out a champion.
And you can't say anything.
No, I'm not saying anything, because in rehearsal...
She failed this in rehearsal very hard.
All right, so...
Lucian.
In Miss Fortune.
It's Lucian.
Oh. All right, we got that one really
it
quick.
wouldn't be misfortune if her arms were straight. Lucian shoots straight.
I was ready to do like the and then.
I should have given. I should have.
Right,
Is it Annie?
easy.
Is it?
Okay, you've got.
You got that. Did you just piggyback off of my answer?
We got that one super easy.
I swear this wasn't planned. He just knew it.
I'm next.
Sejuani. What are you? Okay, do it again. Do your little whip.
Do that again? What is that?
Stand aside. What is he doing? Is he Ivern?
Is something coming in?
Okay, let's start
Jungler?
position.
Jungler?
Top laner.
On your back?
Kale.
Kale? No.
Kale.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
What
You got it.
what is this?
I was trying to do. I was melee attacking first, and now I was
Oh,
like,
it's one and then two.
now it's range, and I was like, woo, but it didn't work. And I tried to do her ulti, but I couldn't really do the execute thing where it was like, woo, when she like explodes with it. It was really hard. I got the wings though.
Frosk is great at this game. I think now it's her turn, which will also.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Nidalee.
It's a
Oh,
catapult?
it's a long spear. She's swimming.
Oh, who does this? Wait, did you do this in rehearsal?
Twitch chat is flaming you guys right now.
It's a
the same one as-
long cast time. Oh, into the ground.
Not Zillion. What was it?
What are you throwing to the
Nami.
ground?
Spear.
Callista? No.
Oh my goodness. Come on.
Why are you
Why are you swimming? Who's
Nami?
swimming? Nami, a fish?
Something underwater? Oh, the Bard!
No. Wait, try it again. Okay, so it's a spear. It has to be a spear.
Yeah, it's a spear. So
Yeah.
Callisto, we had
And
Nidalee.
she's like charging it back slowly and throwing the spear, and then you're swimming
Zyra?
somewhere. Do we have a fish champion? that
Flame them,
throws
Twitch
spears?
chat. Flame them.
What happens if we are too stupid to find it?
I'm really confused now.
Come on, do one more movement. We have to find
Give
it.
us a hint. You gotta give us a hint.
Support? Okay, great. Zyra, Braum, Bard.
Well, I said Nami, and you were like, hey.
Alistar.
Oh, your pike.
Ah.
Wait, you should. Oh, yeah, I guess you tried to do a hook thingy.
Okay, okay.
Ah, the swim one.
Okay, there is one more.
I really thought it was like a spear and you were throwing it.
I feel like since Frosk won,
We have to make me a guest or production. This is.
I feel like we should make the guest.
I think Sjokz should do it. That was
No,
really bad.
Okay, oh, I'll do it. Yeah. Please give me something I can do.
Wait, we're both doing it.
Okay.
We're both doing it.
This is good
No.
out of hand. Yeah, yeah.
Martin,
Oh,
come
we're
here.
doing it.
Am I going
you
up or are you
doing it?
going up?
Wait, I'm never gonna find it.
Ready?
No.
Wait, you got it already? Snowball her! Snowball!
Oh God, put me down.
We gotta go back first.
Okay, I'm right there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
on your mark.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we're all winners.
That was so easy. The last
was
one was so easy.
Oh, we got our laps out. That's good. That was really fun.
Yeah, I hope
actually.
My
Did
kill was
leg
definitely
day.
the worst.
I think we
But
should
the
do it
Nuna was
again.
good.
Yeah, great job, guys. Great enacting, great guessing. I'm in such a good
Some
mood
of it was
now.
kind of bad.
I'm in a great mood. Only that pike. We're
The
never
pike
talking
was
about that
really
again.
bad.
Yeah. So anyway,
Not your, I mean, the guessing part.
we're moving on now. Although I think we should do this every.
We got a
week.
replay.
Oh, the live replay. Yes, this
Wait,
this is where I got
I thought you were gonna throw snowballs at her.
I did.
Oh, there we go. We got it in the end.
Yeah, I got it's full elbow motion.
Hey guys, it's
Sorry.
the playoffs.
Oh,
So-
take it seriously.
It is the playoffs. Also, last weekend we weren't here. We had a week off, but there was action right here because the Premier Tour with teams from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, they visited the LEC studio and they created some great moments for the fans. So let's take a look at that while we compose ourselves.
Ja, das ist super wichtig, dass Tolkien da den verlor. 42. Oh Gott!
Das ist nicht passiert! Schließlich ist der Held der Stunde!
Oh my god.
No. Can do something.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Und das ist der Moment, wo er glänzen kann. Auch da nochmal mitgenommen hier. Und Mausport sagt, danke, nehmen wir. Danke für das Spiel. 1:0. Aufgepasst, Tolkien muss außen rumflashen. Hat man gerade gebraucht. Geht er nochmal rein. Und die holen ihn auch noch ab.
Oh, what?
Man will den Fight nehmen. Obvious kommt in die Flanke nochmal mit rein. Gestunt, aber da ist Sjokz schon mal down. Ganz wichtig. Und Tolkien hinten dran hat Gedui. Die nimmt er einfach mit. Und es sieht sehr gut aus. Das werden sie beenden. Und sie holen sich das 2:0 für Mausports.
Niemand weiß, dass er da ist. Er hat so eine super Position.
Der Schaden, jetzt geht's aber drauf, dass er aktiviert. Und da ist Jane down. Ganz wichtig hier, Klei auch down. Und die Euler spielen hier nochmal ganz stark mit dem Baron hier. Wahnsinn, wie sie das hier nochmal gedreht haben.
Auf der anderen Seite ebenfalls die Support.
Hier kommt Don
Oh, mit dem Power gegen die Trojaner, nicht so lange, und der Lifesteal komplett durch das Game. Immer noch nicht, und jetzt ist er gefallen, aber viel zu spät.
1:1 holen und sich so überzeugend zeigen. Und die Jinx von Chane, die hat schon wieder eskaliert.
Will weiter, der geht da nochmal rein. Mit der Klaus, der Nuxelot CC, die anderen kurzzeitig verlangsamt. Oh, der Fokus ist halt einfach strong.
Wenn schon das Braum hier wieder fast alle Autodecks abfangen konnte und dadurch... Oh mein Gott!
Oh mein Gott, super starker Catch. 2 Leute down und das ist Game.
Sind schon wie weit gleich.
Oh Gott, der ist eingerastet.
Eieiei.
Rocket Jump ist mal... Oh Gott, er hat den Rocket Jump gecancelt. Schaffen, der kommt wieder her und Kasi ist wieder down.
Mitgebracht, denn hier gibt es viel zu begraben, vor allem die Hoffnung vom Big in diesem Spiel. Man sieht es, Triple Kill für Guardian.
Atok will doch nicht aufgeben.
Aber jetzt wird es sehr, sehr schwer. Ist komplett zu White Knight. Versucht es hier mit der Ultimate und langsam kommen hier die ersten Kills zustande. Kasi 1 gegen 1, aber Crit ist nun mal sehr schmerzhaft. Trotzdem Triple Kill für Sasi.
Oh mein Gott.
5 Games hinter sich gebracht und kann sich hier nicht nur bei diesem Stop in Berlin den ersten Platz küren, sondern hat auch den kürzesten Weg bei den European Masters.
Sehr schön war das für Big und SK Gaming Prime. Die
Ja,
haben
Currywurst.
natürlich einen Platz verdient in Leicester, and now in English, SK Gaming Prime
Ich liebe dich.
Big. They earned themselves a spot at the EU Masters, which is something we're very much looking forward to, and the finals weekend will be held in Leicester this week after, no, not this week, the week after the LEC finals. You can get your tickets for the main event over at eumasters.gg/tickets. A lot to look forward to, but now we're going to look forward to our second best of 5 of the LEC playoffs. The reason why we're all here tonight, no more charade shenanigans, SK versus Splyce. And I'm actually quite hyped about this matchup. And to start with SK Gaming, this is of course an organization that has been around esports in general for a very long time, has had great success, and has also been a part of the European scene for a very long time. So I wanted to put the spotlight on kind of the different phases of their evolution, and we got to go back all the way to 2012 when Ocelot was the main star on the lineup, and I think you probably remember that or played against him often.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the heyday of SK with Ocelot.
Yeah, again, this is for all the old school fans, you know, Aaron in the jungle, you had Ocelot in the mid lane. Yellow Star was the AD carry of SK back then. They actually managed to make it to Worlds in 2012, where it was kind of a big surprise. They actually made it, beating CLG.EU, but sadly they ended up
lost
just...
to the other CLG.
Yeah, they ended up losing everything.
I'm sorry, Carlos, that we chose this
We had to get one in there.
clip. We had to get a clip in there. But it shows the passion that they had and also what made SK and Ocelot so popular back then. Then, of course, in 2014, you guys remember the Jessis Candy Panda lineup, Svenskar and Freddy in the top lane. They were actually #1 in the spring split of 2014 and even played the final. Unfortunately, I don't know if this was on purpose, but of course they didn't win that final either.
This is like a lot of salt in the wound right now in terms of these clips
Maybe
back
we're
to
building
back.
up towards
They've
SK.
gotten close very often, but they've sadly not been able to win.
Yeah.
But again, this is an organization that's been around in the LCS for so many years. If you're very new to the scene, obviously it's a little bit of a surprise maybe that this name has so much history behind them. But yeah, back in the LEC now, and I think for SK Gaming, very honestly acceptable first split with this lineup.
Yeah, I would say more than acceptable. The fact that this roster has never seen a playoffs before, at least at the highest level of professional play, and then on their first split, they walk into it with a very young lineup, a lot of inexperience. You have players like Dreams, Pyrian, and Werlib who have played around the ULCS and the NALCS beforehand, but just have never really made good on those accomplishments. It feels like the next chapter for this organization.
I totally agree, and I think they went about it completely the correct way. There are, of course, 3 players that won EU Masters with the Mad Lions, and they got those players from that stage of development and are developing them more here and making it to their first playoffs.
And I like that Selfmade and Crown Shot have actually become the 2 players you really look at for SK Gaming to win games. If it's early game, you gotta win it Selfmade. If it's late game, it's been Crown Shot. And I think if we compare them to some of the other new organizations in the LEC, like Rogue and Excel, well, SK Gaming have actually found great success by getting into playoffs.
It's the fact that this best of 5 is really kind of like the history of Europe. If you buy into this idea that Europe has an abundance of rookies, an abundance of new talent, if you include Humanoid, who's playing on Splyce today, as well as Nemesis, who's playing on Fnatic later on, you have all of the Mad Lions who are represented here. And it's just crazy to think that, you know, it's SK self-made right now, but this is just the start of a career where when he finally lifts the title, this is chapter 1. This best of 5 could go down in history as the start of another great Titan in Europe.
I think that's fantastic because we have a great history of rookies doing very well in their first years in EU. Now for SK specifically, of course, they made it into playoffs by beating Schalke 04 in the tiebreaker, and it's been 1,444 days since SK last appeared in the playoffs. They lost to HBK back then. But who's counting? I am. So, big tradition of rookies here in EU, but the question is, how much will that apply to this lineup? How many similarities do we see to that G2 lineup that went all the way? I think that was extremely special. Vitality, just last year. How far can these guys go?
Ooh, it's always one of the tough questions, especially now they're facing Splyce already in the first BF5 they're going to be playing.
Otherwise it would have been Fnatic, so...
True, I mean, I guess maybe they would have loved to play Vitality based on recent games they played, but I think looking at the lineup, they have some unique tools, again, especially in the jungle with self-made, but you need to see something else from the solo laners if they're actually going to make it far here in this playoffs.
And I think one of the things that can be said about SK is the fact that it is a question. No one really knows how far they're going to go. We've only seen this roster compete in best of 1s. Best of 5 is a completely different animal. You don't know if these players will crack under the pressure. I know that being on stage was kind of a big growing point for a lot of them. Crown Shot in particular was quite vocal about it. So yeah, it kind of feels almost like a victory lap because no one really expected them to do it. It's already so monumental that they're in their first LEC playoffs, in their first split. But at the same time, like, this is so explosive. It's just a giant question mark, and today we'll answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think when we look at their opponent Splyce, they will also have to think about that because this SK has gotten wins off self-made, completely carrying the game from level 1 till the end, but also off Crown Shot late game, something that is a Splyce special. So they will have to prove themselves against this SK and cannot underestimate them. And for Splyce, it's always been a story of, yes, they make it to playoffs, but can they really push further? And I think in that they are very successful. But I think that this lineup could have some elements that can push them further than they have until now.
Yeah, I think if you look at the team right now, obviously Ice straight on Kobe. The fact he's all pro AD carry now, he's playing better than maybe he's done the last couple of years, and that's what they really need if they want to push all the way towards the final. But I'm also just looking at some of the newer members for Splyce, like Humanoid in the mid lane. To me, it's been a very positive surprise because when I saw that he joined the lineup, I didn't really know what to expect from another rookie mid laner coming in, and he replaced Niski, who of course was very successful last year with this team. But I think actually Humanoid has managed to step in and become a pretty strong force for them that can play towards in the early game because he's a very good laner.
Yeah, it seems at least that some of their DNA has changed coming into this year with the addition of Humanoid. Also in history, they're always able to push their opponents pretty far when it comes to the playoffs, but never push far enough. And in that context, I think they should just walk over SK Gaming. They beat them twice in the regular season. It was convincing, and they are rated higher. They made it to the playoffs much more comfortably than SK Gaming. So on paper, you have to say this is their chance to make it to that round 2.
Yeah, it's about bucking the trend. Because if you look at Splyce, most of their games do go to 5 games, but it's against very heavy favorites for the tournament itself. I think they've been knocked out 3 times by a team that eventually went on to the finals. So it's really hard to kind of figure out, are Splyce just the gatekeepers of the playoffs? Or when they were trying to make their playoff runs, did they just manage to run into the Giants every single time? And now this is kind of like, not their free ride into top 4, but I think it's fair to say Splyce are a top 4 team in the LEC, but how much farther?
Well, last time we got to see them play in a quarterfinal against the number 6 seed, it was against Rocket.
Yep.
And they 3-0'd them. It was a pretty easy game for them. They came in really prepared. We know if we look at this team, there's a big coaching staff behind them that preps very well. They have a very smart jungler as well in Cersei who can study someone like Selfmade.
Yeah, a lot of studying should go into this match today, and one of the masterminds behind Splyce is, of course, the coach Duke, and he's standing by with Laure for a couple of words.
Thank you very much, Sjokz, and thank you, Duke, for joining me. Coming in today, the fans see Splyce as favorite. Can the team feel it, and how does it impact you guys?
I don't know if the fans see it. Maybe this time they're on our side. Honestly, I think anyway we are kind of done with being an underdog. So we are usually seen as the underdog, but we are coming into those playoffs with confidence. I think we improved a lot during the split, a lot in the last 2 weeks. Players are confident, and yeah, we are just done being an underdog. And out of the 4 teams playing this weekend, I think we are the strongest one.
That's a good mindset, and I also feel like it's because Splyce comes here with experienced players, while SK comes here with a full rookie roster, and it's their first playoff appearance. So, do you think that experience can be a key factor here?
I mean, experience on some players. We have players like Chachi, who has a lot of experience. On the other hand, we have like 3 players who are really young. One of them is his first appearance in LEC. I mean, at the top level. So I think on some players it has an impact, and I hope Chachi will be able to lead the team if there are moments of doubts. But I think we are kind of a pretty young team too. So yeah, it will, like, the veterans will have to make sure that they calm people down.
All right, so outside of veterans, 4 is here. What is the plan? Without giving me too much, because I know you can't. What is the plan? How do you take down SK today?
I mean, I can't go into too much detail, but obviously the main player that has been the shining light of SK has been Selfmade, who is for sure a great player, great rookie. But I think people are really underrating Sjokz on that aspect, so we'll be focusing a lot on this guy. Crownshot has been having a good split, so bot lane will be like since, and so is Kobe. So bot lane and jungle, I think, will be the key elements in those games.
Well, thank you, Duke, and back to you, Sjokz.
Thank you very much. Interestingly enough, Duke saying that he is the strongest team, Splyce is, of all 4 teams we've seen this weekend,
statement,
including Fnatic. Big statement indeed. And he also hits the nail on the head when it comes to the most important matchups, jungle and bot. I think we can all agree on that, and we want to dive into Xerxes versus Selfmade, because it's so easy to say, Selfmade, this guy who exploded onto the scene, carried a lot of games, he's certainly going to do the same, but I think then we're discounting Xerxes a bit and the way he's played this split, and actually last year as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think actually Xerxes and Selfmade have a lot of similarities in what they like to do. They've always valued their own experience above just perma-ganking lanes like some other junglers likes to do. We know they always want to try to be very strong in 1v1s.
Yes, before I forget, you can also choose who you want to watch in our POV stream over at twitch.tv/riotgames2. So spam in chat either Xerxes or Selfmade, and then you can take a look at whoever wins is Cam in the game. So sorry to cut you off. I just had to get that in there.
No, I mean, it's the same thing. But that said, I feel like a lot of people will lean towards Selfmade and kind of get behind him because there is all of this hype. He is a very explosive play style to watch. But Xerxes pretty much cleaned house on Selfmade when Splyce got to face them in the regular split, just by using deep vision, by tracking where Selfmade was going to go, and just outthought him. So it's not as flashy, it's not as easy to grab a hold of, but Splyce are a very disciplined practice team.
And I just like the fact that both teams rely so much on their junglers, and then when they face each other, because these laners are not solo killing each other, they're not getting big leads without the jungler being there, which is why at the bottom of your screen you're gonna see kill participation being very high for both Xerxes and Selfmade, and that's not because they're necessarily doing more in the early game than other junglers, it's just because their team is not getting kills without them.
Seems to me that the crowd for now wants to see Selfmade, no big surprise there, but the other lane we have to talk about, you mentioned it there, they farm a lot up, they make sure that their team is doing well, but the lanes necessarily don't do that much by themselves in the early game, and that is why both of these teams do prefer to go late with their strong AD carries, Kobbe and Crownshot in that bottom lane.
And there's a lot of similarities kind of across the board in terms of like the different pieces that make up these teams. Playmaking supports in Froskurinn and Dreams, late game scaling ADCs in Crownshot and Kobbe, proactive early game junglers, but how they execute on them is very different, and that's why you always give the edge to Splyce, because it feels like they just have more versatility, more weapons, more arsenal. Kobbe can play way more champions effectively than Crownshot.
And I also think for me, Kobbe, now that he's finally getting that recognition that he's been, wanting for several years, he's playing fantastic, and this is also his chance to take this quarterfinal, round 1 against SK Gaming. He doesn't want to drop the ball here. He knows that he is in his best form, and he wants to make that run to final. So I'll be looking very closely to that bottom lane.
Yeah, 100%. I also think he's more flexible. You highlight the champions. I also just think positioning on your own in team fights is something Kobbe is great at. And it's actually a Crownshot has struggled a little bit. He needs very long-range AD carries to be very successful. So it's a select few champions he's really looking for if he wants to succeed.
So SK seems to be the underdog. I think that's pretty clear, and we're really going to need all these players to rise up to the occasion and honestly do better than what we expect of them if we look at how they played in the spring split so far. Splyce and SK together, their playoff run starts here. We're going to see if the rookies of SK can continue their climb and surprise everyone today.
Our first game in LEC was versus Fnatic. We were like really hyped and kind of stressed because they're basically world finalists.